I got some exciting news today because Set 16 Lore of Legends is going to be coming out very soon on December 3rd. PvE is out on November 18th. And I'm actually crazy excited about the set because there are over 100 champions. Like, when have they ever done that? Answer is never. So if you haven't played TFT before, or you're just looking for more information on TFT and you played a lot before, like, this is going to be the video for you. I'm going to cover all the new champions, all the new trades, the set mechanic, and also go over some of the cooler augments that they're adding in this set. So get a drink of water, get some coffee, whatever you need to do to get you going. But let's just get right into this. The set mechanic is going to be a thing called unlockable champions. So I said that there are 100 champions, but that doesn't mean the unit pools are going to be absolutely bonkers nuts because they're still pretty controlled. Normally in a TFT set, they're around like 60-ish champions. Normally I'm like, oh, there are like 62 champions this set that we're going to be covering. But because there are 100, they don't want to make it too difficult to get the champions you want. It's kind of like how in a deck of cards, if you like double the amount of cards or introduce like a new set of cards, there's also like emperors and empresses in there. Like, it's going to be harder to hit the cards you want, right? But the good news is that not every champion is available. So if you are super contested or you hate being super contested, you can always play a comp that is not contested by unlocking it. So what are unlocks? So currently there are around 40 unlockable champions, and they're all either 2, 3, 4, 5 cost, or even a 7 cost champion. And when you unlock a champion, you get a copy of that champion. So you are guaranteed to get whatever champion you want as long as you meet the requirements for it. And also, other people cannot get it unless they also unlock it. So getting a 2-star 4 cost might be a lot easier in this set compared to previous ones. But let's talk more about unlocking. So how do you unlock a champion? So if we look at Renekton, for example, he's a Shurima unit. The way to unlock him is to win 2 combats in a row with an Azir. So Azir is a 5 cost, and then you play him, you win 2 combats, then you get your Renekton. There are some champions that are easy to unlock, there's some that are very difficult to unlock. As it gets more difficult to unlock, they become stronger and stronger, especially Sylas. We'll cover Sylas in the champions section later, so stay tuned for that. Essentially, when you hover over a champion in your team planner, it'll show you how to unlock them. So like all the lock champions, they all have this lock next to them. And yeah, you hover over them, you see the condition, and then you try to do it if you want them. But this other example we have is Ziggs. He's a 5 cost unit. Zon, Yordle, and Longshot are the traits, but you have to field in combat a Yordle or a Zonite with 3 items equipped in order to unlock Ziggs, and then you get him, and you get a 5 cost that you want for your comp for free. So all the unlocks, they all have weird conditions. Some it's like play certain units, play this specific unit with items on them, do this, do that. So again, since they do appear in your next shop, be sure to only unlock the champions that you actually want to do. But that's the set mechanic. It's going to be opening up a ton of different champions because they added so many to them. I believe there are like 160 league champions, so they almost have all of them, and there are a few surprises there. Like we have Rift Herald, Baron Nashor, and a couple of other comical characters that are being added to the cast. But without further ado, let's move on into the traits. I'll tell you what the trait is, what it does, what units are involved, and also give my thoughts around it, mentioning whether it's like a reprint, what to do with it, and also if I think it's cool or not. So first we have Ascendant. You know, when you look at guides on bunnymuffins.lol, you ascend a little bit, but this trait, after each combat, an Ascendant charm appears in your shop. These are powerful effects that can be bought for gold. So that one's just going to be Xerath, who's an unlockable. And this one's kind of like the buff charms from a previous set.
Charms.
I think it was like 12 or something like that, where in the like super late game, you could get upgrades in your shop, such as getting better legendary odds, getting this fight bonus for the next round. It's like a bunch of cool little upgrades that allow you to really push your team to the next level in the super late game. So it's going to be really good for that with Xerath. Next, we have Assimilator. If you ever wanted to assimilate into the TFT community and learn all the lingo, up at the top on my website, bunnymuffins.lol, I have this TFT dictionary that goes over every single slang you can imagine and almost every single term, so that's a great way to check that out if you have not already. Assimilator, Kai'Sa has different abilities depending on if her attack damage or ability power is higher, so that one's just part of Kai'Sa. Bilgewater, each round gains Silver Serpents, plus 2 additional for each Bilgewater to take down, so this one is going to be kind of like the Econ trait of the set, but not really, because it's done a little differently. They want you to spend your money, so Silver Serpents can be bought in the black market to gain Bilgewater champions, bonus stats, and special loot. Higher tiers unlock rarer loot. This one's going to be Alawi, Graves, Twisted Fate, Gangplank, Fizz, Misfortune, and Tahm Kench. And unlike all the econ traits in the past, you want to be spending your money. because you could get nice little upgrades. If you want an immediate effect, get some champions, so you could get like Twisted Fate 2 or whatever, and if you want to go for super late game, you could get stats, and that could be the difference maker when you're trying to really cap out your board. Next up, we have Blacksmith. Blacksmith, you know, they say to go into the trades now, so if you want to do that, this one's perfect for you. This one is after each player combat your strongest Ornn participates in, he makes progress forging an artifact item, and he also gains max health when he has items equipped on him, and artifacts grant even more. So if you want to make infinite items in the late game or like do a item printer Ornn, this is going to be really good to get some really cool artifacts. Obviously, they are going to be random, but in the late game, you have so many units to put them on, so again, another great way to really cap out your board, works with pretty much any team comp. Caretaker is really good if you know someone who's addicted to TFT. After winning a player combat, gain a random unit from Runeterra. After losing combat, gain free rerolls with the amount increasing by stage. So this is just a nice little econ boost you get from playing Bard, and is very similar to a previous Bard effect. I think he got like Chimes before or something like that. Now on to Chainbreaker. Silas rotates between 3 different abilities depending on which one is most useful at the moment. I wonder how the AI is going to determine that. He cannot cast the same one twice in a row. I think this is pretty cool, but that one's more just a Silas thing, not quite a trait. But next up we have is Chrono Keeper. Every 2 casts, a Chrono Keeper stores 1 XP. If he has enough stored for you to level up, he transfers you the required XP. If you're level 10, instead gain 15% damage amp. That one's for Zillion. So if you want a fast 9, this one's going to be the trait for you. Super, super, super cool there. Dark Child. Annie summons Tibbers on your bench who can be fielded and equipped with items separately. His star level is the same as Annie. So if you have unlimited items, Annie seems pretty good because, I mean, you could get a 2-star legendary and then have like 2 different things to itemize. Like, that's pretty crazy. Darken. At 1, you gain 15% Omnivamp. At 2, you heal 25% of the player damage you deal. And at 3, whenever Darken restore 100 health, they deal 100 magic damage to the 2 closest enemies. This one's unlocked with Aatrox and Zaheen. And this one's like a super good late game trait if you're able to unlock both Aatrox and Zaheen, and it requires 2 different augments. It requires the Darken augment, which gives you a Darken weapon and turns someone else into a Darken, and it also requires you to get like the Xin Zhao augment that unlocks Zaheen. So this one is a very, very huge chase trait. I'm assuming when you get 3, you just destroy everyone, but if you ever get a video of this, let me know. Send it in the Discord, share with the rest of the Bunny Muffins community, and yeah, that'd be pretty cool to kind of see. Demacia, each time your team loses 25% max health, Demacians rally, reducing the cost of their abilities by 10%. Demacians gain armor and magic resistance. Anyone remember the rally summoner spell in League of Legends? I always thought that was a really cool one, but they removed it. But I wish it was kind of still there. But yeah, you gain armor and MR, and then at 7 you rally. That's when you summon the Galio, and then at 150 armor and MR, battle for Demacia. That's going to be the Prismatic. It requires 11. Holy cow. How are they going to do that? But that's going to be Jarvan, Sona, Poppy, Xin Zhao, Vayne, Garen, Lux, and Galio. And I'm guessing you need like a ton of emblems to make that work. Dragonborn. On cast, Shyvana replaces her spell with Flame Breath. While transformed, all allies take 10% less damage from enemy abilities. For those of you who didn't know, Shyvana is my favorite champion to play, but she seems like a very good tech unit if you just want this little damage reduction effect, so it's probably like a great +1 or a great flex unit for your team. Emperor. Azir deploys 2 guards who can be displaced anywhere on the battlefield. They do not move or attack and die when Azir does. Ironically enough, Azir is the favorite champion of the person I duoed with back in the day, so it's funny how they're right next to each other. Don't hate me, but we pretty much both just AFK farmed until we could try to 1v9 in the late game, or I guess 2v8. But it seems like in TFT, this set, Azir is going to be really good for teams without many tanks because you just get 2 free tanks on your team. Eternal. Every 3rd attack on the same enemy deals 350% damage, and Wolf mauls the target. That's for Kindred. Freljord summons a frozen tower. Allies in front of it gain health, and allies behind it gain damage amp. Freljordians gain 150% more. Is that what they're called? Freljordians?
There's 300 very angry San Diegoites. San Diegoans. San Diegoans.
San Diegans.
But this one's going to be Anivia, Ashe, Tryndamere, Sejuani, Braum, Lissandra, and Volibear. And then this is similar to traits from previous sets such as Disco or Keepers, where you want to keep your units around certain squares, but this one's a bit more adaptive because you can choose between getting health or damage. Glutton, I guess that's one of the 7 deadly sins or whatever. Once per planning phase, you can feed Tahm Kench a champion permanently, granting him either health, attack speed, or ability power based on their role and star level. So this one's really good for Tahm Kench if you want to make him a super late game unit. If you have infinite gold, is really good. In previous sets, when this trait was around, people got crazy Tahm Kenches where he'd just be eating infinite, he'd be infinite health. But make sure you only play this if you can actually afford to feed him, because some people are feeding him like 2-star champions, like 2-star 4 cost, and he gets absolutely bonkers when you do that. But of course, that costs a lot of gold to kind of make. Harvester, each time an enemy champion dies, gain 15 mana. Casting abilities does not consume mana. All enemies lose 10 armor and MR. So that's going to be Fiddlesticks, and this is going to be really good against teams without many resistances. Maybe they're playing Bruiser and they stack like triple Warmogs on their tank. Obviously, they're going to be super tanky still, but if they don't have much armor and magic resistance, the flat 10 reduction could probably do a bunch to those types of teams. Next up, we have is Heroic. Galio cannot be fielded in combat. Instead, his traits count from the bench and when Demacians rally. Oh, so that's how you can get to 11 Demacia. On landing, he creates a 3-hex shockwave that deals 12% of his max health as damage, and enemies are knocked up, reduced by the distance from the center. And this is going to be very similar to Cultist, where you just summon a Galio, but this one is cool because you can make your own Galio. Hex Mech, gain a pilot hex, combat start, the unit within jumps into the T-Hex, granting her 80% of their health and bonus stats based on their role and star level. So if it's a tank, you gain Omnivamp, Fighter, Attack Damage, Marksman, Damage Amp, Caster, Mana Regen, and Assassin critical strike chance. Didn't they get rid of Assassin? Are they bringing Assassin back? On death, the pilot ejects while T-Hex knocks back and stuns enemies for 1.5 seconds. That's one's only going to be the T-Hex unit. Huntress, while your strongest Nico is alive, your strongest Nidalee is untargetable. And I guess that means you just want to build infinite damage on Nidalee and build infinite tank on Nico and make sure that like Nico lives as much as possible. Immortal, while Xin Zhao is not on your board, Zaheen gains Ionia, Demacia, and Warden traits. On kill, Zaheen gains a stack of focus for the rest of combat. If he has 3 or more focus when dying, he spends it to revive and restores 60% max health. So it's just a way for him to gain a lot of traits and also get a free revive. Ionia, each game they walk a different path. Essentially, this one's going to be like Mirage from a previous set. That was with Deja, for those of you who remember. But every game, the trait is going to be a little different. So sometimes they get bonus health with stacking AD and AP. Sometimes they get bonus gold. Sometimes they gain AD and AP based on your level. Sometimes they gain bonus health and deal bonus magic damage, increasing if they're 3-star, so that encourages reroll. And then lastly, they also have a critical strike one if you want to build that up for your team. But make sure to check what Ionia you have at the start of every game, just to make sure you are actually playing the trait the right way. But that's going to be Jin, Xin Zhao, Yasuo, Ahri, Kennen, Wukong, Yone, Yunara, and Set. And then next we have is Ixtal. This one's super cool. I'm not just saying that, but this is the quote-unquote like fun trait of the set. Essentially, when you field 3 Ixtal, you get some quests you can complete. There's normally things like, oh, win the next 2 rounds, or like lose the next 2 rounds, or do like win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. And you unlock some crazy quests and you get more rewards as you complete them. And yeah, instead of playing like Fortune, you'd play Ixtal. But that's going to be Kiana, Nico, Milio, Nidalee, Skarner, and Brock. So definitely try this out. This one's going to be really cool. Noxus is going to be the next one. This one's just like the summoner trait. You summon an Otacon, and each Noxian champion star level increases his power. That's going to be Briar, Scion, Darius, Draven, LeBlanc, Mbessa, Swain, and Mel. So I guess you could use Otacon as a tank and then go like full damage on everyone else. Maybe you don't even need like a regular tank on this team, but I'm assuming Swain can kind of do that job as a forecast. And then next up we have is Piltover. Build an invention on the right side of the board. After 8 seconds, the invention activates, triggering each of its modules. And you just choose a module every time you go up the chain. That's going to be Caitlyn, Orianna, Vi, Loris, Seraphine, and the T-Hex. And this one's going to be very similar to the Anima Squad. Maybe there's a different trait that was more like this, but you essentially just like build your own trait and get bonuses based on whatever you're trying to do that game. For Rift Scourge, Baron Nashor takes up 2 team slots and grants +2 to the Void trait. After 8 seconds, a board enters a Void, and the Rift grants Void units 30% damage amp and constantly strikes enemies with bolts of plasma, dealing 5% max health as magic damage. I guess with this trait, all you need to do is just make sure you live for 8 seconds without too much damage to your team, and then your Baron, I'm guessing, is going to smurf after that. That'd be kind of cool to watch. Rune Mage, I think, is one of the most creative traits of the set. Maybe, dare I say, across all of TFT, because this one, unfortunately, it only applies to one unit, which is Rise, but Rise gains benefits based on whatever regions you're playing. So you need 4 regions active to get Rise, but you essentially can build your own Rise. So you could give him like certain stats such as an explosion with bilge water, executing targets from Demacia, chilling people, gaining various stats. There's like so many different ways to build him. I forgot how many combinations there were, but I think Riot told me that there are either 1,000 or 4,000 different variations of Ryze you can make. I guess with that, it's like go out and experiment whichever Ryze build you think is going to be the best. I will, of course, be updating guides on bunnymuffins.lol/meta. Obviously, for PBE, it's going to be more like just stuff to know rather than like a competitive tier list. But when the set comes out, updates every day. So if you want to climb, bookmark the site and come back when the set comes out in December. But I'm sure I'll have some Ryze builds, but there are going to be so many different ways to play it. So it's going to be really cool there. And I'm sure if you get lots of emblems or something like that, it could go even crazier and you could do all sorts of other different things too. Shadow Owls, whenever any champion dies, gains souls. Shadow Owl champions and abilities are uniquely empowered based on the number of souls that you have. So I guess it's kind of like the serial killer trait, but Shadow Owl champions gain attack damage and ability power based on how many run. That's going to be Viego, Yorick, Gwen, Callista, and Thresh. And this one's going to be a stacking trait. So you play Viego and then you unlock all the other Shadow Owl units afterwards. So you could commit to it if you want, but I guess you could also just go out and not care about it later. And the great thing about unlocks is that you can't see any of the other Shadow Owl champs if you don't care about it. So I think this is going to be a really well designed trait, at least from a conceptual standpoint. Next one up we have is Shurima. Each second, Shurimans gain 2% attack speed and restore 20 health. At combat start, they gain additional effects. 20% max health, 50 armor and magic resist, and then ascend to godhood every 3 seconds at 4 Shurima. It's going to be really hard to get to 4 Shurima. So the unlock requirements, I think, is like you play Azir and you lose 2 games in a row, you get Nasus. You win 2 games in a row, you get Renekton. It might be the other way around. But then for Xerath, you need to like win, lose, win, lose, win, lose a bunch of times in order to get Xerath. And that's going to be extremely difficult to do. So if you are able to get 4 Shurima, like I don't know if you have enough time in the game to do that because you have to complete all the quests. But I'm sure that's like going to be a Giga Prismatic trait, probably going to go absolutely bonkers nuts. But essentially, Shurima is kind of like the Ascension augment in a trait. You just get stronger as the game goes on, or the fight goes on. Soulbound. Anyone want to Soulbound with me? But Lucian and Senna fight together, swapping when either casts. Each champion has a unique ability. Your strongest Soulbound pair grants bonuses to your team. While Senna is out, allies gain damage reduction. While Lucian is out, allies gain damage amplification. Lucian and Senna, instead of being different champions, are going to be the same champion and kind of just play together. So it's going to be weird how the items are going to work. I'm sure some items are going to be better on Lucian, some are better on Senna. So you have to strike a balance between the two. So we'll have to see how that kind of works out. Next one up we have is Aurelion Soul. Aurelion Soul gains 40% increased Stardust for each other unique Targonian fielded in combat. And to understand more of that, we have Targons right down here. Targonians are forged by the stars. They are traitless but stronger than your average champion. So they're just going to be the threat units of the set. So essentially you want to run a bunch of threat units and then Aesol has his bonus based on how many Targons you have. And that's going to be Aphelios, Leona, Zoe, Diana, Taric, and Aesol. Aesol's unlock thing, I think you need to field 5 Targons in combat, and then she comes out. For Diana, it's going to be field a 2-star Leona with 3 items in combat. But next up we have is the boss. So that's going to be the Set solo trait. Set, he's had this before. It's really good. There are a bunch of different builds that work well on him. I mean, obviously you could build tank items on him, but you could also build bruiser items on him. I think the bruiser items are going to work out a bit better, such as like Sterix or something like that. Maybe there's like a full damage build that you could try out with him, but essentially you want him to die or reach below 45% max health, and then he leaves combat, heals back up while doing sit-ups, restoring health, and then gaining a lot of attack and movement speed, and then he comes back and just smurfs on the enemy team. He'll convert all his damage to true damage, and yeah, he's gonna go absolutely bonkers nuts, but you need a team to survive while he is doing push-ups, and also you need him to die early or like get his first trigger early. That way he gets stronger and comes back early on in the fight, because the earlier the better. That's not what she said. But Void, gain mutations that only Void champions can use. Void champions gain attack speed, and this one's kind of like a build your own champion type of thing. So champions can only have 1 mutation at a time, and benching a champion removes their mutation. But that's going to be Kog'Maw, Cho'Gath, Rek'Sai, Malzahar, Bel'Veth, Kai'Sa, Rift Herald, and Baron. And it's essentially like the power-up trait. Like if you want to power up a unit with a certain ability, some of them give like tanky stats, some of them give like AP stats, some of them give AD stats, some of them give them a goofy little effect. So you're going to have to choose which champion on your team is going to make the best use of them. So if you're doing like reroll Cho'Gath, you probably want the tank one on him. But if you're not doing reroll Cho'Gath and you have a tank thing, maybe you want it on like Baron or like Rift Herald or something like that. So you're going to have to make those decisions in your own games. Next one up we have is World Ender. Kind of like if you majored in comp sci, 5 years ago and still don't have a job. Sorry for not censoring, but Aatrox gains attack damage equal to his Omnibam, and on first death, he becomes briefly untargetable and heals back to full health over 2 seconds. Afterwards, he reduces his maximum mana by 20 and gains 25% durability. That one's going to be obviously just Aatrox, and it's just his buffing trait. Yordles are so weird. Like, I can't tell. They're kind of like Crew 2.0. So if you played last set, Crew is going to be like the reroll trait of the set. Yordles are kind of like that, but not really. Like, there's some times where you want to reroll them. There are other times where you're like, no, I want to rush level 8 and then get a lot of Yordle grab bags in every round, because at 2 Yordles, you get some stats and 3 stars gain more. At 4, your first shop each round has Yordles in it. And then at 6, you get rerolls. And then at 8, you get the Yordle grab bag. So sometimes you want to get to 8 just so you can keep getting the grab bags and get a bunch of 3 stars that way. Other times you might want to say like, hey, maybe I want to reroll early. It's kind of hard to tell at this point just looking at it right at the start. I think both playstyles are going to be viable. It's going to be dependent on the patch, obviously, but there will be one like optimal way to play it as we discover later on. But it's going to also depend on what units you get during that game. But we have Lulu, Rumble, Poppy, Teemo, Tristana, Kennen, Kabuko, and Yumi, Fizz, Veigar, and Ziggs. A lot of unlockables there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 unlockable Yordles. Absolutely bonkers nuts. But yeah, it's a reroll trait, but kind of not really. I don't really know. Sometimes you level 8, get 8 Yordles, get the grab bags. Like, we'll have to see. Zons, after 4 seconds, Zonites become Shimmer Fuse, granting them 10% durability and 90% decaying attack speed for 4 seconds. After a short cooldown, they become Shimmer Fuse again. I know this sounds complicated. Essentially, you just get a buff and it gets reduced over time, but then it refreshes. So I guess you could just divide the number in half and get like an estimate on how much it gives if it was like a normal trait. But that's going to be Blitzcrank, Echo, Vi, Dr. Mundo, Jinx, Singe, Warwick, and Ziggs. I'm sure some mathematician in the comments is going to be like, well, actually, if you decay at this rate, it's actually going to be not be half. It's going to be this one. I don't know how it decays. I don't know if it decays by a flat rate, by a percentage. All we can see here is that it decays, but essentially it's just attack speed and durability on a timer. Nothing too crazy there. Next up we have is Arcanist. Your team gains ability power, Arcanists gain more. We're heading on into the classes now rather than like the origins. So traits are separated into classes and origins. Origins are more interesting, like they're different every single set, but classes are kind of reprints because you have to reprint stuff like mages or like assassins and things like that. You can't like invent a new assassin. What are you going to call it? Like harassins or something like that? Like you're going to call them assassins still. So Arcanists are going to be one of those. They're just like generic AP units. Lulu, Rumble, Poppy, Teemo, Tristana, Kennen, Kabuko, Yumi, Fizz, Veigar, and Ziggs. Bruisers, we had that last set. They're just beefy HP tanks. Alawi, Shen, Scion, Mundo, Kabuko and Yumi, Rift Herald, Wukong, Tahm Kench, and Volibear. Defender, this one is going to be the resistance-based one. Sometimes we have Defenders, sometimes we have Sentinel, sometimes we have Bastion. This one is going to be Defenders. We have Jarvan, Rumble, Nico, Vi, Darius, Kennen, Sejuani, Garen, and Sylas. Disruptors, this one's a little new. Disruptors dazzle enemies hit. Disruptors deal bonus damage to dazzled enemies. And dazzling means you reduce damage dealt by 10%. That's going to be Echo, Gwen, Malzahar, Seraphine, Azir, and Mel. Great tech trait to reduce damage. So if you are able to like field 2 of them, like let's say you hit a Azir late game, you're like, maybe I play Azir to disrupt a bit. Throw in maybe like a Malzahar or Seraphine, you know? Or if you're playing one of these traits that naturally run one of these units, like feel free to add in another disruptor. Like add in that Azir late game. He gives tankiness to your team because of his 2 statues. And then like he also reduces a bunch of damage dealt. It obviously depends on your build, but probably a great trait to kind of +1 in. Gunslinger, this one's just attack damage, or like auto attackers, Jhin, Graves, Tristana, Jinx, Misfortune, Lucian, and Senna, and the T-Hex. Invokers, your team gains 1 mana regen, invokers gain more mana from all sources. Anivia, Sona, Oriana, Kabuko and Yumi, LeBlanc, Milio, Lissandra, and Zillion. Juggernauts, this is a damage reduction. Tank class, Blitzcrank, Briar, Cho'Gath, Poppy, Nautilus, Singe, Swain, and Shyvana. Longshot, okay, this one is weird because you know how I said like you don't rename assassins? This one is literally just Sniper. I like, when I first read it and I saw the champions like Caitlyn, Kog'Maw, Teemo, Vayne, Kai'Sa, and Ziggs, I'm like, yeah, those are snipers. But I'm like, maybe Longshot is different. But no, it's the same. You get damage amp and you gain increase per hex distance away. So it's literally the same thing. I honestly don't know why for this one they decided to change the name. Maybe someone can ask the developers or something like that, but like, I think it's confusing, and I don't even think Longshot's a good name. Like, Sniper sounds so much cooler, at least for me. Quick Striker, your team gains 15% attack speed. Quick Strikers gain bonus attack speed based on their target's missing health. Viego, Ash, Twist of Fate, Draven, Warwick, Yunara, and Kindred, so it's just a bunch of attack speed. Slayer is the melee carry class. This one, they gain Omnivamp and attack damage, and it also increases bonus AD based on their missing health. So that one's going to be Briar, Kiana, Tryndamere, Yasuo, Gangplank, Bel'Veth, Yone, and Aatrox. Vanquishers, that's like the critical strike trait. Rek'Sai, Gangplank, Mbessa, Callista, and Fiddlesticks. And then lastly, we have Warden. This one's going to be like the shield-based class. I think we've had Wardens before. I don't know if they did exactly this, but normally like the shielding class is called like Protectors or something else like that. But this one's going to be Xin Zhao, Yorick, Loris, Nautilus, Braum, Ornn, and Thresh. All right, now let's get into the champions. We're going to start off with a 1-cost Anivia, Freljord Invoker, Frostbite, fire an Ice Shard at a target that deals magic damage. If they are chilled, the damage critically strikes. So you need to combine it with some chilling effects. I'm guessing the Freljords do that, so you don't want to run her alone most likely. Blitzcrank, Zon Juggernaut, Static Field, gain shield for 4 seconds, and then deal magic damage to all enemies within 1 hex based on your MR. So this is going to be a good magic resistant tank, good with Stoneplate most likely. Get a huge stack up, and then Briar, Noxus, Slayer, and Juggernaut. Blood Frenzy is her ability, and this one is leap to the furthest enemy within 3 hexes for 4 seconds, gain increased move speed, attack damage, and decaying attack speed. This one is going to be one of those 1-cost units that goes absolutely insane in stage 2, but falls off a bit in stage 3, so you need to switch to a different carry at that point. But I'm assuming 2-star Briar with items like, it's going to be the Nefiri and Nidalee of previous sets. Caitlyn, Piltover Longshot, Ace in the Hole, fire a bullet down the furthest enemy, dealing physical damage to the first enemy it hits. If they die, the bullet ricochets, dealing excess damage to the next enemy, so it's the same thing as the set 15 Caitlyn, except that was a 3-cost, this one's a 1-cost. Just going to be a generic AD caster item holder, so i.e. Shojin, things like that. Illaoi, Bilgewater Bruiser, Tentacle Slam, restore health, and slam a tentacle, dealing physical damage into a line, just a generic 1-cost unit. Jarvan, Demacia, and Defender, Demacian Standard. Oh no, are they bringing him back? I think they are. Gain his shield for 4 seconds and grant all allies attack speed for 4 seconds. This was the OP Jarvan. I think it was Darkstar Jarvan way back when. Absolutely bonkers 1-cost unit, but obviously, if you tune the numbers enough, they will be in line. Jhin, Ionia, Gunslinger, Curtain Call. What's the YouTube equivalent of doing a curtain call? Is it after I make like a hit video? Do I do like a YouTube post or something like that? Let me know. Maybe I do it in the future, but that's assuming I make a banger though, right? That's a little reliant on you guys too, so I would appreciate it if everyone spread the word both on this video and all the future set 6 videos. It's gonna be a group effort there, but for the next 4 attacks, gain infinite range and replace attacks with a cannon shot. Cannon shots deal physical damage and the force shot deals more. So this one's going to be, I'm guessing, an auto-attacking AD. I'm guessing Jin's a AD specialist, maybe based on the way it's kind of described. Maybe you want to put all the auto-attacking things on him, actually. Kog'Maw, Avoid, Arcanist, and Longshot, so lots of traits there. Caustic Spittle, deal magic damage to target and reduce their armor and MR. Adjacent enemies are dealt a part of the damage and effect, so this is a good AP item holder with utility. Got some spread on it as well, AoE. Lulu, Yordle, Arcanist, and Whimsy. Magic damage to targets make them dance for 2 seconds. The projectile then bounces to the nearest target, dealing magic damage to the utility AP unit. Kiana, Ixtal, Slayer, clear the brush. Is Garen in this set? I forget if Garen's in this set or not, but you gotta watch out for him in the brushes, you know. Dash to a nearby hex and swing forward, dealing physical damage to enemies in a 2-line hex. Rumble, Yordle Defender, Junkyard Titan, gain a shield, and then fire a burst of flames, dealing magic damage in a cone. Shen, Ionia Bruiser with Stand United. This one's really interesting. It's kind of like a support tank. Grant shield to this unit and a nearby damage unit for 4 seconds, so he's going to be really good with melee carries on the front. I wonder if there is one with Ionia. We'll probably see it soon enough, but Sona, Demacia, and Invoker. Power Chord's going to be the ability. Deal magic damage to 2 nearby enemies and restore health to the lowest health ally. Going to be a great blue buff holder. I think she has like 30 mana, so you're going to be able to go nuts with that. Viego, Shadow Owl, Quick Striker, Blade of the Ruin King. Passive, gain souls and attack speed. This is the first unit of all the Shadow Owls, so you'll need him to start stacking. And then as you get stacks, you unlock the other ones, but you deal physical damage to the target, and for the rest of combat, Viego's attacks deal bonus stacking magic damage, so you want to just Probably get like a Rage Blade on him, maybe an Edge of Night so that he lives. No, wait, actually, what if you built a Quicksilver? Quicksilver does both. Gives him attack speed and CC immunity. Probably a decent item on him. Aphelios, Targon, Incendiary Onslaught. Start with Infernum equipped. On cast, switch to Severum for 8 attacks. And Infernum is attack 3 enemies and apply Sunder. Severum is gain attack speed and Omnivamp, and then you also swipe. So good utility 2 cost with the little armor pen, but it isn't active all the time, so maybe you still need Last Whisper or Even Shroud. Ash, 2 gold, Freljord's Quick Striker, True Ice Arrow. Fire an arrow that deals physical damage to them and damage to adjacent enemies. Targets below 30% max health take true damage instead, and you can chill all enemies for 3 seconds. So you can combine that with the Anivia, maybe get the chill effect going, and then get Anivia's like little bonus damage. And then she also has like this little thing with Tryndamere, so when you field Ash and Tryndamere, your strongest copies permanently increase their power on kill. So we'll definitely be able to do some cool reroll comps there because Tryndamere is also a 2-cost unit. Bard, Caretaker, Traveler's Call. This is going to be the first unlockable champion, but the way you unlock Bard is that, yes, you're reading this correctly, reroll 4 times before stage 2 carousel. Luckily, Caretaker gives you a lot of resources back, so this one's going to be very fun to take, but you got to decide early whether you want it or not. I'll be writing down conditions for all the comps on bunnymuffins.lol/meta when I do come out with a tier list. That's going to be the when the live set comes out, and I'll definitely let you know when to go for Bard and when not to. But launch 6 meeps at nearby enemies that deal magic damage. Add an additional meep for each 3-star unit on your board, so you definitely want to be re-rolling. Cho'Gath, Void Juggernaut, and Rupture. Restore health and Rupture a 2-hex circle beneath the target. Wow, they're giving a 2-cost unit AoE CC because after a brief delay, enemies within are knocked up for 1.5 seconds and take magic damage. That's crazy. Like, I know that's not like the biggest area, but for a 2-cost, like any AoE CC is more than welcome. I'm guessing Cho'Gath's not going to be that great in the early game then, but in the late game when you need like a trait bot, he's probably going to be pretty solid. Echo, Zon, Disruptor, Parallel Convergence. Create a 1-hex zone around the target that lasts 3 seconds. The next 3 attacks deal bonus magic damage, and when the zone ends, it deals magic damage plus 10% of the target's damage taken during the duration to all enemies in the zone. This is going to be a great melee AP carry if you want to reroll it. If not, probably going to be a decent item holder for something later on for disruptors. Graves, Bilgewater Gunslinger, collateral damage. Attacks fire in a cone on target, dealing damage to other enemies hit. And you also fire an explosive shell at a target, dealing physical damage split amongst enemies in a 1-hex circle. Also, the way to unlock Graves is by fielding a Twist of Fate with 2 items in combat. And then they have this little passive little trait synergy, Partners in Crime. When you field Graves and Twist of Fate, both gain bonuses. Your strongest Twist of Fate ability marks targets for your strongest Graves. Graves gains stacking attack speed when attacking marked targets. So great for Bilgewater Vertical, obviously. And I'm guessing like they could share a few items. Like I'm guessing Twist of Fate likes attack speed and AP. Graves like attack speed and attack damage. So maybe you could like use Twist of Fate as an item holder at first and then split the items, or keep all the items on Twist of Fate, use someone else to hold Graves' items. Next up we have is Nico Ixtal, Arcanist Defender, and her ability is going to be Pop Blossom. So leap at a target and gain shielding for 4 seconds, slam down after a brief delay, dealing magic damage to enemies within 2 hexes, and also you chill them. So that's another way to get chill effects. There's a lot of chill effects in this set. I think last set there weren't really many, but this set I've been reading it a lot. But Orianna, Piltover, Invoker, Command, Protect. Send a ball to the target. Wait, I just realized Orianna's got like the command stuff and the ball is a ball. Like, is there a dog skin for Orianna? That'd be so funny to like kind of look at. But send the ball to a target, dealing magic damage and splitting magic damage among enemies within a 1-hex circle. So that sounds like a big AoE, but it's really not because no one stands that close together. So max you're hitting like 3 units, right? So it is an AoE, but it's not like an insane AoE and doesn't happen all the time. But you also get to shield 2 of your lowest health allies for 3 seconds. And the way to unlock Orianna is to get 3 Piltover or higher. Poppy, Demacia, Yordle, Juggernaut. Her abilities Hammer Shock. Gain a shield for 4 seconds and deal physical damage to the target. After a brief delay, knock them up and deal damage again. Bucklers fly out of the target, granting nearby allies a % of the shield gained. And the way to unlock Poppy is fielding a Demacian or Yordle with 2 items in combat. So this is going to be the Yordle tank. She's going to be good if you want to go really deep into a trait. By the way, if you haven't realized yet, do not unlock champions that you don't want to play because they do end up going into the pool. I've heard there is like Forgiveness, if you do not field the champion on your board or bench, they show up less often, but we don't know if we could actually trust that. So do not unlock a champion you do not want. I'm warning you now. So unless they change the mechanic, you're just griefing yourself if you're just unlocking everything for fun. Only unlock stuff you want to play. Rek'Sai is going to be a Void Vanquisher, and her ability is going to be Burrow. Dash to the furthest enemy within 3 hexes and deal physical damage to them. The next 3 attacks hit adjacent enemies and deal physical damage as well. Weird Assassin unit, we'll have to probably do some weird positionings with her because maybe there's a way to aim her directly at the enemies, but we'll have to play around with that. Obviously, I'll be doing positioning guides later, so if any interest in that, hang out in the Discord. Maybe I'll be posting announcements when I come out with new guides. Scion, 2 gold, Noxus, and Bruiser, Soul Furnace. Passive takedowns grant permanent max health. Active is shield for 4 seconds. When it breaks, deal max health damage to adjacent enemies. So this one's going to be a stacker. If you are playing Noxus or Bruiser, play Scion early and often. If not, maybe he's not the best unit. But it's great if you know you're going into Bruiser or Noxus. So if you get like a trait emblem or something like that, then definitely worth exploring. Teemo is a Yordle Longshot. Toxic Dart, holy cow, what is this going to do? Teemo is always troublesome, but shoot the closest unpoisoned enemy, dealing magic damage and poisoning them for 8 seconds. Poisoned enemies take magic damage each second. So this is just the dream Morello holder. Kind of like Malzahar from last set, or Malzahar in most sets. Just like a Morello spreader, like a super spreader. But it's Teemo, so yeah, it's got to be a little bit annoying, right? Tristana, Yordle Gunslinger, her ability is going to be Buster Shot. Fire a massive cannonball at the closest enemy, dealing physical damage, and if they are within 2 hexes, knock them back 2 hexes and briefly stun them. Next up, we have Tryndamere, Freljord, and Slayer. His ability is Undying Rage. I have seen a lot of TFT players exhibit this ability by typing in chat after they miss the roll down, or when they get griefed on a fortune streak, but become enraged for 5 seconds. While enraged, gain durability, and attacks are replaced with a strike that deals physical damage. Ignore armor against chilled enemies. Ooh, great synergy with Ashe then, because obviously Ashe chills people. Oh, I just realized there's like a rage and then there's someone who's chill. Maybe that's why they work well together. When you field Ashe and Tryndamere, your strongest copies permanently increase their power on kill. And the way to unlock Tryndamere is field an Ashe with 2 items in combat. The in combat just means you can't do it during a neutral round. You want to be doing it during a real fight. By the way, gentle reminder with the unlocks, whenever you do unlock a champion, you get them right away in the next shop. So very easy to get copies this set. Twisted Fate, Bilgewater, Quick Striker, Stacked Deck. Passive is deal bonus magic damage on your attacks. After every 3rd attack, throw 3 cards in a cone that deal magic damage by 50% for each enemy they pass through. And then Partners in Crime, we went over that already. But when Graves kills a marked target, gain 10% ability power until end of combat. Twisted Fate is going to be a great AP AoE damage dealer, so great for Morello or Red Buff. Maybe Red Buff's going to be better because he also likes attack speed. Vi, Piltover, Zahn, and Defender. Relentless Force is the ability. Gain shield for 2 seconds, slam on a target, dealing physical damage to enemies in a 1 hex range. Every 3rd cast deals more damage in a 2 hex radius instead, and also knocks up an enemy for 1 second. So sounds like that existed before. I'm just can't remember who it was. Xin Zhao, Demacia, Ionia, and Warden. 3 Talon Strike. Strike target 3 times. Each strike deals physical damage and restores health. The final one stuns for 1.5 seconds. By the way, there are 100 units in this set, and I think they're like 140, 160 league champions, but Talon's not in this set, I don't think. I wonder what all the other champions who are not in the set are. Okay, Talon, Rammus, Malzahar. Someone else list out all the rest in one of the comments. We'll find out soon enough. But Yasuo, 2 gold, Ionia Slayer, Sweeping Blade, dash and deal physical damage to adjacent enemies. If only one enemy is hit, deal double damage. Holy cow. Gonna be great in the 1v1s, but you also have Blood Brothers with Yone. So when you field Yasuo and Yone, Yasuo assists Yone's cast. And when Yone casts, your strongest Yasuo blinks to every target Yone hits and deals physical damage to each. So you unlock a combo to tag team, and if anyone's played, what was it, like set 3? You know the name of it, I can't say it, but that's probably what the comp's gonna be called. Yorick, Shadow Owl, and Warden's Morning Mist. Restore health. Throw a glob of black mist at the enemy who has dealt the most damage this combat, preferring unique enemies, and it chills them for 4 seconds and raises the mana cost of their next cast by 20? It then deals magic damage in a 1 hex radius. Unlock this by fielding a 2-star Viego with 2 items in combat. So, wow, this is a crazy anti-carry. Is there a way to tech this in late game to do an anti-carry if someone's like super stacking 1 or 2 units? Like, because then Yorick would be very, 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 very good at that. Maybe you could play a Viego early, unlock Yorick, and then if you need it later, you could play it. That might be a viable strategy. I've been noticing like a lot of the champions in this set, they do like very weird counters. So there might be some counter picking in the 1v1 scenarios late game. You might tech in like a 3-cost unit instead of like the 5-cost units, you know? But speaking of 3 costs, we are onto them right now. Ari, well, I wish I was on Ari, but Ionia and Arcanist, her ability is going to be Foxfire. Fire 3 flames at a target, dealing magic damage, and every third cast, fire 9 flame splits between the target and up to 2 enemies. If there are enemies nearby, dash away. I guess she doesn't want people to be on her, but you need to cast often with Ari because you need to get to that third cast as much as you can, it seems like. So it's going to be weird timing RNG with the duration of the fight. So against fast fights, maybe you only get one of the combos off before the fight's decided, but in the longer ones, maybe you get like 3 or 4 of these cycles. So the mana items you use are gonna kind of depend on the matchup, but I'm assuming she wants like a bunch of mana regen, some spell crit, and then she gets AP from Arcanist, so maybe you want like a Guard Breaker after that, or maybe you want something with utility, who really knows, but it's definitely going to be like Shojin or Blue Buff plus Jeweled Gauntlet. Third item probably can be a little flexible on that. Darius, Noxus Defender, his ability is going to be Decimate, just like how you are going to be decimating the like button because you enjoyed this video so much, but Restore Health and Spin, dealing physical damage to adjacent enemies and applying a stack of Hemorrhage that deals physical damage each second for 4 seconds. If the enemy with Hemorrhage drops below 8% health, slam on them, instantly killing them, and each stack increases the execute threshold by 5%. The way to unlock Darius is by having Draven drop 1 gold. And we'll probably cover him soon. We're on the alphabetical, right? So Draven's pretty close by. But Dr. Mundo, Zon, Bruiser, maximum dosage, bulk up for 5 seconds. While bulked, restore health every second and attacks deal physical damage. Draven, Noxus, Quick Striker, spinning axes. If Draven has an empowered axe in hand, his next attack will throw it. On takedown, gain an adoration stack, doubled if Draven or Darius scored the kill. Every 11 stacks gain 1, 3, or 5 gold depending on his star levels. So that's his passive. His active is spin an empowered axe that replaces his basic attack and deals physical damage and returns to Draven after hitting an enemy. I wonder if he has to catch his axe, because if that's the case, you need plus range on him. If not, I guess just axe away or hammer away. But getting gold gen on him gonna be a little bit more difficult than Gangplank. Maybe they learned their lesson on like the infinite gold stacking before of previous sets. The econ in set 16 is going to be a lot less than previous sets, so we're going to have to get used to that, but I'm sure it's not going to be too bad to get used to. Speaking of Gangplank, he's going to be a 3-cost Bilgewater Slayer Vanquisher, and his ability is Powder Kegs. Toss barrels at 3 nearby enemies and detonate them. They deal damage reduced by 20% for each barrel in the chain. Barrels reduce their target's armor by 10 and increase to 30 if the damage critically strikes. So this is just a good AoE crit unit. Gwen, Shadow Isles, and Disruptor, snip snip. Hopefully that didn't happen to you as a baby, but dash around target and snip a bunch of times, dealing magic damage to them and also damage to all other enemies in a cone. The way to unlock her is collecting 20 souls. Again, that's from Viego from before. Jinx, Zon, Gunslinger, Switcheroo. I love Jinx. Jinx is one of the coolest champs visually to look at, but her passive is after attacking 18 times, switch to Fishbones. While equipped, attacks are replaced with 3 rockets that target random enemies and deal physical damage. She essentially just goes infinite, and it's really fun to watch. Completely crazy. Kennen, Ionia, Yordle, Defender, Slicing Maelstrom, gain a AP shield and summon a storm of lightning. 6 waves of bolts hit enemies within, dealing magic damage over 3 seconds. The first 3 targets to be struck by 3 bolts are stunned, and multiple stuns on the same enemy have half the effectiveness. So you need to unlock him by playing 8 star levels of Ionia, Yordle, or Defender. That just means like if you have 3 2-star Ionias, you have 6 star levels. So you need 2 more from like Defender or Yordle. I'm not sure if it gets double counted, like if there's a Yordle Defender or something like that, if that gets double counted, I have no clue. But it does have to be unique, so maybe it does have to be someone else. But pretty cool unlock mechanic from 3 traits that gives like a solid unit. I know his ability is long, but essentially it's just deal damage and stun. Kabuko is going to be next with Yumi, and they are going to be a Yordle, Bruiser, and Invoker. You and Me is the ability, and the passive is Yumi joins her strongest Kabuko. Every 3 seconds, she alternates between healing the lowest ally or granting attack speed to the ally that has dealt the most damage for 4 seconds. So pretty neat there. It's lots of support units this set is what I'm noticing, and the active is going to be Dance, restoring health over 3 seconds, and to unlock this, you need 6 levels of Brawler, Yordle, or Invoker. LeBlanc is going to be next with Noxious Invoker. Distortion, summon 3 dashing mirror images that strike the target and up to other nearby enemies. The target takes magic damage and is stunned for 1 second while other units hit take magic damage. So unlock this by fielding a Scion with 2 items in combat. Leona, Targan, Solar Flare, reduce instances of incoming damage based on your AP, and then the active is call down sunbeams on the 3 nearest enemies, stunning them for 1 second and dealing a bunch of magic damage, and then you also wound and burn for 4 seconds. So at 3 cost, great solid tank to stabilize with in stage 3 and early stage 4. Fits in every comp because it's Targan and also provides burn and CC. What more can you ask for from a unit? Loris is going to be a Piltover Warden, Piltover Tussle. Gain a shield for 4 seconds, charge and knock the target backwards, stunning them, and units hit for a couple of seconds, and then after charging, force nearby enemies to target this unit. A taunt tank with the CC, great for distracting other people, probably really good with melee carries so that your melee carries get targeted a little less often. Malzahar Void Disruptor, Void Storm. Summon 2 Voidlings that each attack a nearby enemy 15 times. Each attack deals magic damage. Is this like a Silco reprint from previous sets? I can't remember. I remember Silco summoned some stuff a while ago, but could be cool. Oh, I guess Malzahar is in the set. I said he was not before, but he is in the set. Milio, Ixtal, and Invoker, Ultra Free Fire Kick. Launch Fumigo. Is that how you say it? Fuemigo at a target that bounces 3 times, dealing magic damage to enemies hit. The last bounce deals magic damage to enemies in a 1 hex radius. I'm guessing that's like a fantastic Morello holder because it bounces 3 times and then also does an AoE. So probably crazy for that. Nautilus, Bilgewater, Juggernaut, and Warden, Titan's Wrath, passive every 4 seconds on cast. The next attack deals damage in a 1 hex circle and also deals bonus magic damage. Active is going to be getting a shield. Nothing too crazy there. Sejuani, Freljord, Defender, and Winter's Wrath. I felt Winter's Wrath recently. Like, random story, like my heating was not working in my whole building, and then the heating people did not fix it for like 3 weeks. But like before it wasn't cold, but then like the past couple days it was pretty cold, but we got it working. But I almost felt Winter's Wrath. It was gonna be bad. But shield for 4 seconds, strike in a cone and line. Enemies hit take magic damage and are chilled. If they are already chilled, stun them for 1 second. So pretty cool that Freljords get like bonus effects on chill. It's not just everyone chilling. So some people chill and then some people do their effect. So there's going to be some weird intricate positionings that you need to do so that you can make sure everyone gets chilled, but also you get the bonus effects and target the right people. Vayne, Demacia, Longshot, and Tumble. Tumble to the nearest hex and then fire a bolt at that target, dealing true damage. This would look pretty cool. Zoe, Targan, and Double Trouble Bubble. Passive is going to be damaging. An enemy applies 30% shred for 6 seconds, and then you also kick 2 bubbles at nearby enemies, dealing magic damage and then chilling them. So you both shred and chill. Great flex unit, great little splash for utility. It doesn't have an unlock requirement, so that's kind of cool too. Mbessa, we're onto the 4 cost now. Noxious, Vanquisher, and her ability is going to be Lacerate. Swipe and dash around target, dealing physical damage to enemies in the path, then slam chains on target, dealing physical damage in a line. If any enemies are killed, immediately recast this ability, dealing 100% of the damage. So reset champion, need to focus fire, and then you just rinse and repeat a lot of combos. So it's kind of like Volibear from last set. Belveth, 4 gold, Void Slayer, Endless Banquet. On takedown, gain stacking attack speed that decays over 3 seconds. Active is going to be deal physical damage in a 2 hex radius and transform for the rest of combat. This one's going to be another reset champion because while transformed, gain attack speed, max health, and increase move speed. Attacks deal bonus true damage, increased by a bunch for each time the same enemy is hit. So it's going to be good for resetting and also good for taking down like a super tank because the more you attack someone, the better Belveth does. Braum, Freljord, Warden, Unbreakable Frost, raise shield for 4 seconds, gaining durability and redirecting projectiles towards Braum instead. When hit, deal magic damage to nearby enemies and chill them for 2 seconds. Diana, Targan, Lunar Rush, unlock her by fielding a 2-star Leona with 3 items in combat. So I guess as you're flexing the Leona, you gotta decide, do I want Diana? So if you get a bunch of random AP items, I guess you could run Diana, right? You don't have to go deep into Targan, just run Leona, Diana, or even drop Leona later. But Ability damage from your strongest Leona and strongest Diana marks enemies as moonlit, reducing their damage by 10%. Never mind, I guess you gotta run both if you run Diana. But active is gonna be shield for 2 seconds, unleash a bolt of lunar energy at the furthest non-moonlit enemy within 4 hexes, dealing magic damage, and then dash to all moonlit enemies, dealing magic damage to them. Fizz, Bilgewater, and Yordle, Playful Trickster, become briefly untargetable, then jump to furthest enemy within 4 hexes, dealing magic damage to adjacent enemies. For the next 4 attacks, gain 50% attack speed and deal bonus magic damage on hit. So I guess you do want attack speed, you want AP. That's going to be a weird build because you probably don't want too much attack speed because then you also need to survive a bit. But unlock 5 Yordles or Bilgewater and also be level 7, so you need to do both at the same time. Garen, Demacia, Defender, his ability is going to be Judgment. Oh, so Garen is in the game. Spin for 3 seconds, gaining durability and healing over the duration, and then each second deal physical damage to adjacent enemies and reduce their armor and MR by 5. Kaisa, Assimilator, and Void Shot, Long Shot, Acathian Rain. Dash away from all enemies, then fire missiles split across the 4 nearest enemies. Each missile deals physical damage, and the way to unlock Kaisa is field a long shot with 3 items in combat and also be level 8. Kind of reminds me of Ink Shadow Kaisa. Is that what her ability was? I mean, Kaisa generally does have the missile effect, so I guess all of the Kaisas are kind of like that. Callista, Shadow Owl, and Vanquisher, Endless Rend. Summon spears split amongst the 3 nearest enemies. After a brief delay, they each impale their target, dealing physical damage and reducing armor by 1. Unlock her by collecting 75 souls. That's going to be quite a bit. Lysandra, Freljord, and Invoker. Man, I'm really liking the Freljord units. I don't know why. Like, I played Lysandra, I played Sejuani. Like, those are fun champs, you know? Like, I do play Ashe when I ADC, but I suck at ADC. It's mainly just to arrow people, but Frozen Tomb, encase targets in ice, stunning them for 1.5 seconds and dealing magic damage. All enemies within 2 hexes of them split magic damage. If the target dies, shards fly out and split excess damage between 2 nearest enemies. Chilled enemies take 12% more damage from this ability. It's always weird to look at stun carries because, like, you know they don't carry as hard as like pure damage ones because they can't, right? If not, the game would be imbalanced. So it's always weird to play around them. But the way Freljord works, like maybe the stun still allows Lysandra to be like the main carry of that comp, you know? But we'll have to see. Lux, Demacia, and Arcanus, of course. Final Spark, fire a ball of light at the most enemies, dealing a bunch of magic damage to the first 2 enemies and rooting them. Then fire a beam, dealing magic damage to all enemies hit by the ball and magic damage to all other enemies hit. So she does a lot of abilities. You want to stack a bunch of AP probably from the Arcanist trait, then do the whole like Shojin plus Jeweled Gauntlet build, probably Striker's Flail to really make the most of that. Misfortune, Bilgewater, and Gunslinger. Her ability is going to be Heartbreaker. We've all been there, right? But passive is going to be attacks ricochet to the highest current health enemy, dealing 50% damage. And then active, fire waves of bullets that land on the 2 nearest enemies. The first wave deals a bunch of physical damage, and then every third cast increase the wave numbers by 1. I personally love this version of MF. I always love bullet time. It's always so cool to kind of look at. Nasus, Shurima, Fury of the Sands, steal HP, split between the 4 nearest enemies for 8 seconds, gain armor and magic resist, and deal damage to adjacent enemies each second. The way to unlock Nasus is by losing 2, 3, or 4 combats with Azir. So that's going to change based on which Shurimas you unlock. So if you unlock 2 already, you need to lose 4 in a row. Buyer beware, or Shurima beware, right? But this one's a reprint of the old Nasus, but he's like a giga fight scaler. Like he gets stronger as the fight goes on, and so do Shuriman. So it's going to be tough to balance that out. Maybe you want to build like a crown guard on him so you live through the first part of the fight and then he reaches his like Shuriman ascension or whatever. But Nidalee, Ixtal, Huntress, Relentless Pounce. Jump on an adjacent enemy with the lowest health and then deal magic damage to them and also damage to adjacent enemies. If any die, cast again, dealing 70% damage, and then tanks take 50% more damage from this ability, and fighters take 25% more. So she's an anti-melee champion, okay. We also have to remember Huntress makes her invulnerable when Nico is out there, but the way to unlock Nidalee is field 2 2-star Nikos in combat together, so pretty tough requirement there. Renekton is a Shurima and Slice and Dice. Dash to the furthest enemy within 2 hexes, dealing physical damage to all enemies in the path, then slash 4 times each, dealing physical damage, and subsequent casts increase the number of slashes by 1. Unlock this by winning 2, 3, or 4 combats with Azir. So another Giga Fight scaler. I'm guessing all Shurimans do that, but this one's unlocked by winning a lot, so that's going to be tough to do all in a row. Rift Herald, Void Bruiser, warp armor, gain max health and grow larger, slam in a 2-hex circle on the target, dealing magic damage to enemies hit for 4 seconds, and then gain durability for each enemy targeting this unit. Unlock this by having Void active for 8-player combats. Seraphine, Piltover, Disruptor, Grand Encore. We're going to be watching this video a lot, right? So we could do a Grand Encore already, just have it autoplay and on repeat. Learn everything you need to know about set 16. Gain 3 notes for each one active. Deal magic damage to a nearby enemy. While holding 12 notes on a cast, consume them and project a wave of energy. Allies hit restore health, and then enemies hit take magic damage reduced by 30% for each enemy it passed through. Now we have Singed. He's really fun. He's a Zon Juggernaut with Poison Trail. He essentially just runs around everywhere, leaving poison trails that linger for a few seconds. Obviously very good with Morello. And then you also gain 10 mana each second. And then for his ability, the active is for 4 seconds, gain increased move speed and restore health every second, and also gain armor and MR. To unlock him, you need to take 30 damage and have 4 Zonites or Juggernauts. But yeah, this guy is super fun to watch because he runs around. Like, they did have this, I believe, in set 2 and maybe another set. I forget which, but it's kind of similar to Zac Hero Augment from last patch, where he's bouncing around, but this time he is running around. Skarner, Ixtal, and Impale. Oh, no other trades, only Ixtal. Passive is all allies gain armor. Okay, so if they're facing attack damage in the late game, tech in Skarner, because holy cow. But active is gain a shield for 4 seconds and impale up to 3 nearby enemies in a line, dealing physical damage and stunning them for a bunch of seconds. And the way to unlock him is field a non-tank with a Gargoyle Stoneplate in combat. Huh? That sounds a little goofy to me, but hey, I guess if that's the only way to get Skarner, then you gotta do it. Maybe you could do it on like a fighter who can kind of tank. I don't know, but he's kind of like a generic AoE CC4 cost, but obviously also has that armor component. Swain, Noxus, Arcanist, Juggernaut, and Nevermove. Each second, restore health and deal magic damage to enemies within 1 hex. So pretty good for anti-tank with Morello, or Sunfire, I guess. And then active is open a demonic eye in the largest group of nearby enemies, dealing magic damage and stunning them for a bunch of seconds. So definitely build like the Protector's Vow on Swain, triple trait tank here, and also like obviously generic AoE CC as a 4 cost, but he also does not have an unlock, so everyone gets to play him. Tarek, Targan, Starlight's Touch. Passive is all allies gain magic resist once per combat, dropping below 35% max health, gain durability for 2 seconds, and then active is gain a shield and grant the 2 lowest health allies a shield as well, and then your next attacks deal bonus magic damage. So if your trait does not have a real tank, definitely run Tarek because he's a Targan. Just use him, and you also get a bunch of magic resistance if you're facing a lot of AP. I'm guessing Tarek and Skarner are great techs in the late game depending on the patch. Next up we have is Vhagar, Yordle, Arcanist, and Darkstorm. Passive is gain 50% ability power from all sources. Oh yeah, we have to look at the unlock condition for Vhagar. Field a unit with 2 Rabadon's Death Caps in combat. So I don't know when the earliest you can do this is. I wonder if stuff like Wand Overflow exists. Probably not. But you do that, you get the Vhagar, and you get even more AP from your passive. I don't even know what the optimal build is. Is it going to be double Rabadons? Is it going to be 1 Rabadons and then you put the other one on someone else? All I know is that I am going to be checking data religiously on teamfight.lol to figure out what the best Vhagar build is. It's for sure at least a Jeweled Gauntlet, because that one just multiplies all the AP he has if you crit, but you built 2 hats, and the hat does not work well on a different Arcanist, so it might have to be on Vhagar, but you also want a mana item. But alright, his ability is call down a storm of meteors across the battlefield that deal magic damage, and they can innately critically strike. Okay, never mind, you do not need Jeweled Gauntlet on him. I am a dum-dum. I did not read. For each one that kills an enemy, permanently gain 1 ability power. Okay, so I guess they probably are making it so that you do want double hat on him. So maybe it's double hat plus mana item. I'm gonna just do some data checking for that. But the build is gonna be goofy. Next up we have is Warwick, Zon, Quick Striker, and Eternal Hunger. Grant attack speed and Omnivamp and move speed, and then deal bonus physical damage on attack for the rest of combat. While this effect is active, takedowns grant Warwick, Jinx, and Vi attack speed for 3 seconds. Unlock him by having 2-star Jinx and Vi. It's kind of like a family comp with Jinx and Vi. Also, is this the War Week thing? Obviously, the traits are different, but that seems pretty interesting to say the least. Wukong, Ionia, and Bruiser, Diverting Trickster. On death, summon a stone copy with 40% of Wukong's health and items. Active is going to be for 4 seconds, gain armor and MR resist, then spin, dealing physical damage to all enemies within 2 hexes. This is going to be the classic Stone Plate 4 cost. Get everyone around him, then he'll do a big spin. And then he also has a on death passive, so you definitely want him to die first, or like at least be your main tank with the Stone Plate. Probably going to be like double Stone Plate Warmogs or something like that. Yone, Ionia, Slayer, Kin of the Stained Blade. What is a Stained Blade? But passive attacks alternate between dealing AD and AP. Active is strike through the most enemies possible within 3 hexes, knocking them up for 1.5 seconds and dealing physical and magic damage. Yone then splits damage among all enemies hit. Blade Brothers is when you field Yasuo and Yone assists Yasuo's cast and vice versa, and then of course unlock Yone with a 3-star Yasuo, so you gotta do a reroll for that. Then you get the Yone, and then I wonder if there are augments that buff up 2 specific units, like long distance pals, for example. That would make them even more cool to kind of check out. Next up we have is Yunara, Ionia, and Quick Striker's Transcendent State. What does Transcendent even mean? But for the next 4 seconds, gain attack speed, infinite range, and replace attacks with lasers. I guess that's what Transcendent means. Lasers deal physical damage in a line reduced by 60% for each enemy they pass through. When lasers critically strike, they deal bonus true damage. Aatrox, Darken, World Ender, and Slayer. The Darken Blade is the deadliest, but on cast, cycle through one of the following abilities: Slash in a line, dealing physical damage and sundering; Sweep in a cone, dealing physical damage and knocking them up; Slam on the target, dealing physical damage in a 1-hex circle, and targets below 15% max health are executed. And then the way to unlock this is field a unit with 40% Omnivamp in combat plus level 8. Don't forget about the revive part from his trait, so he does get 2 lives. Also, don't forget the unlock condition, level 8. When I was playing in the playtest, I got to 40% Omnivamp, and then I did not realize that I needed to be level 8, so I was like wondering where Aatrox was. I was like, where is this guy? But I ended up going 8th that game, but I just didn't read. Like, you have to read in TFT. It's like being a lawyer, you know? By the way, I just realized we're in the 5 cost, so like, yeah. Annie's also a 5 cost. We already know that she summons Tibbers from Dark Child, but she also has the ability Enraged Inferno. Erupt the entire battlefield in flames, permanently burning and wounding all enemies and dealing magic damage to each of them over 45 seconds. That's a long time. Annie's max mana is reduced by 140 for the rest of combat. Subsequent casts launch a fireball at the target and deals magic damage. So lots of cool techs you could actually play, because sometimes in previous sets, the random techs you get for effects, they might be like a 2 or 3 cost unit, and you're like, great, I had this like 2 cost that sunders. It's like, do I really want to play it? I guess that exists in this game too. It's Aphelios. But there are a lot of ways to get these like random burn effects, like from Annie here, or like you get the extra armor from Skarner or the magic resist from Tarek. So I guess let your mind run wild in the late game when you're looking for different stuff to put into your team to kind of like really do those duels at the late part of the game. We might actually have to think in stage 6 instead of just playing our default board and then just power leveling to level 10 and playing something random. Azir, Shurima, Emperor, Disruptor. His ability is going to be Arise. Passive, when witnessing 3 attacks from Azir, Sand Soldiers deal magic damage to their target. Active, summon a Sand Soldier near target and then command them to strike. If 2 soldiers are already out, they all immediately deal magic damage instead. And obviously this unit unlocks all the other Shurimians, but it is a 5 cost. So if you ever get an early Azir, you know how sometimes you randomly get a 5 cost when you level up to level 7 on 3-5? Maybe you just get that random Azir one time and you could start stacking right away. That's going to be when he's going to be at his strongest. But obviously those are like 1 in 100 games, but when it happens, it happens. Fiddlesticks, Harvester, Vanquisher, and Crowstorm teleport into the largest cluster of enemies and stun them. Begin losing 20 mana per second while casting. Deal magic damage to all enemies within a 2-hex radius, and the closest 2 enemies take 33% more damage. Very good, like AoE 5 costs and stun. Like, he just does everything. I think this is a reprint of an old Fiddlesticks. Galio, Demacia, and Heroic. Inspirational Might. Passive is every 3rd attack, deal magic damage in a circle around the target. Active, dash into the largest group of units and inspire all allies within 2 hexes, granting them a shield for 4 seconds. Then crash down, dealing bonus magic damage to all enemies within 2 hexes. And to unlock him, you need 12 star levels of Demacia. This is going to be the Demacia vertical payoff. So how to get to 12? You have 6 Demacia units, all 2-star. or you can have like maybe 2 of them 3-star, then 3 2-stars, something like that. Kindred, 5 gold, Eternal, Quick Striker, Lamb's Respite. Dash then create a 2-hex radius zone that prevents allies from dying while active, double current attack speed on attack and fire a secondary arrow at enemies that deal physical damage. When the zone ends, heal all allies for a % of damage dealt and then dash away. So positioning this is going to be crucial, and you also have to time when Kindred is going to cast. It's going to depend on what comp you face. Like if you're facing someone who maybe like, I don't know, Vagar casts, let's say like 5 seconds into the fight, then you want Kindred to cast maybe like 4.5 seconds into the fight to save them. If someone does a big cast after 10 seconds, then you want Kindred to do it at like 9.5. So it's going to be weird timing, but you might be able to count it with auto attacks and maybe remove mana items on and off your Kindred to kind of deal with that. I don't know if that's optimal. Maybe you just want pure Kindred items on her without playing with the mana, but making great use of that no death zone definitely can make or break some fights. Lucian and Senna, Soulbound and Gunslinger, the culling. Fire shots towards the target. Each shot explodes on the first enemy hit, dealing physical damage to all nearby enemies. If an enemy is afflicted with Black Mist, purify them, immediately draining their armor for the total amount. Are they missing Senna's ability here? Maybe we'll see it in some other time. But Mel, Noxus, and Disruptor, Radiant Eclipse. Passive, while gaining mana, throw out radiant orbs that orbit around the target. They deal magic damage in a 1-hex radius and drain 1 mana from units hit each second. After draining mana, gain a random radiant item, so I guess you only put 2 items on her. And then active is detonate orbs, causing a 3-hex explosion that deals magic damage to them and all other enemies hit. The way to unlock her is by having a 2-star Ambessa with 1 item and dying with her. In game, of course, and then she's going to be just kind of like a generic AoE AP 5 cost caster in the backline, but you don't have to build too many items for her because you do get the random radiant. Oh wait, no, is that a permanent item? I thought it was just for the fight. It might just be a permanent item. That'd be crazy. But Ornn, Blacksmith, Warden, Call of the Forge. Speaking of item printers, Ornn is going to be another one of those. He's going to make artifact items with a Blacksmith trait, but his regular ability is going to be summon an elemental from behind the furthest enemy. It chills and then also deals magic damage, and when it arrives, he headbutts and then deals a bunch more magic damage. After that, we have his Rise. Rise is probably the most interesting legendary of the set. He gains different effects based on what traits you run. The way to unlock him is by having 4 regions fielded together in combat, and he releases a runic blast dealing magic damage, and it splits into 2, dealing a % of the damage dealt to the 2 closest enemies. Each secondary blast splits an additional time. And then we have a bunch of random stuff. So if you have Bilgewater, blasts explode on impact, dealing 0.2% of the damage as physical damage to the enemies. Demacia executes targets below a certain amount of health. Freljord chills targets and deals true damage. Ionia splits an additional time. Ixtal gains a random regional effect on combat start and every 10 seconds, so that's a stacking one. Noxus, blast now pierce targets, dealing 60% reduced damage per enemy hit. Piltover is every 3rd cast is overcharged, dealing 50% more. Shadow Owls increases blast damage based on souls. Shurima knocks up enemies for 1 second with a chance to dredge up gold or treasures. Why isn't that Bilgewater? Okay, whatever. But Targon, heal the lowest ally for 10% of damage dealt. Void, ignore 30% of enemies' armor and magic resistance. Yordle, shrink targets hit, lowering their damage by 12% for 4 seconds. And then lastly, Zon, poison targets, dealing magic damage over 4 seconds. And again, there are either 1,000 or 4,000 combinations for this thing. Someone can do the math. What was it, like the NCR or the NPR button on your calculator? Maybe someone can be an NPC and actually do the math and let us know down in the comments how many combos there actually are. So there are 4 different regions. Can you have more? I don't know, but maybe it's only exactly 4. It just says field 4. It doesn't say 4 or more. Like, I don't know how that works, but all right, someone count this and like let me know how many combos there are. But I assume there's going to be some crazy cooks. Imagine if you get like Trait Tracker or something like that, where you get like tons of emblems, or like from Call to Chaos. You could get some pretty crazy Rise stuff. But set Ionia, the boss, and the showstopper. Grab the target and slam them forward, dealing a % of their max health as magic damage to everyone, and then all other enemies in the hex take 50% of the damage, and then you unlock Set with level 8 and only field 1 unit in the first 2 rows of combat. Pretty easy to unlock, actually. A lot of people can get this. He is not a bruiser this time, he's just Ionia, so you will have to play around that. Shyvana, Dragonborn, Juggernaut, Dragon's Descent, and Flame Breath. Dragon's Descent transforms into a dragon, gaining max health and briefly gaining durability, and dives bombs the largest group of enemies, dealing physical damage in a 3-hex circle. Flame Breath is breathe fire in a cone for 3.5 seconds, dealing physical damage each second to enemies hit. Next up we have is the T-Hex. This one's going to be Hexmex, Piltover, and Gunslinger. Hextech Arsenal. Attacks fire a barrage of 4 bullets. Active is gain a shield and begin consuming mana every second. Each second while casting, fire a laser that deals physical damage reduced by 15% per enemy hit by up to 45%. Additionally, launch attack speed missiles split between 4 nearby enemies that each deal physical damage, and you'll unlock the T-Hex by getting 9 Piltover star levels. This unit does everything, kind of, but it'll be interesting to see which items work best because it deals a lot of damage. It's also pretty beefy. So I'm assuming you just wanted to deal damage, but like, who really knows, right? Because it also gains a shield. But Tom Kench, Bilgewater, Glutton, and Bruiser devour. Devour target for 2.5 seconds, dealing a lot of magic damage and making them immune to other sources of damage. During this time, gain 30% durability. If they are immune to crowd control, deal magic damage instead. And if they die while devoured, spit out a random component they were holding or the unit's cost in gold. Otherwise, spit them towards the furthest enemy, briefly stunning targets on impact. You unlock this by spending 500 silver serpents. And again, I want to reiterate, you need a lot of gold to play Tom Kench effectively because you need AP on him so that he can actually print you items by eating people and actually killing them. Because if he just spits them out, you can't do it. You need a swallow, and then you get the items. Next up we have is going to be Thresh, Shadow Owl, and Warden, the box. Each second, deal magic damage to all enemies within 2 hexes. Heal for 40% of the damage dealt by this effect, so he's going to be a tank. And then active is create a prison of walls in a 2-hex radius. And while active, the passive's damage is doubled. While an enemy touches the wall, they take magic damage. And if there are less than 2 enemies inside the box at any time, drag an enemy in. You unlock Thresh by having 150 souls. I actually kind of wish they had the Thresh that brought units in. I like that one a lot, and I think in this set you could do some really goofy stuff there. So I would have liked to see that, but it's okay. We'll settle for this one. Volibear, Freljord, Bruiser, the Relentless Storm. Bite the target and mark them, dealing physical damage increased by 60% if they are already marked. After casting, leap to a nearby hex, activating Stormbringer and dealing physical damage to enemies within 2 hex radius. And then Stormbringer is going to give you attack speed, health, and then every couple seconds launch a lightning bolt on a nearby enemy as magic damage, and then take down, summon a bolt on fallen enemies. Crazy stuff there, really long description. I mean, he just goes in, gets to buff himself, and goes ham, right? But the way to unlock him is getting level 8 and having a unit with 3,800 health. So it's going to be a little tricky if you're doing him with Freljord. Bruiser, it's going to be easy because you get so much bonus health, right? But with Freljord, unless you're running like 4 Bruiser, or if you have like 2 Warmogs and 2 Bruiser, it's going to be hard to hit that threshold of 3,800. So do keep that in mind and beware, because in order to get Volibear, you need to meet that requirement. So maybe if you're going deep into Freljord, maybe play 4 Bruiser in the mid game and then get that as an unlock. That might be the best way to kind of do it. But next up we have is Xerath, Shurima, and Ascendant. Eye of the Ascendant. Launch Arcane Blast randomly split between the closest enemies and deal magic damage. You unlock him by alternating winning and losing 3, 4, and 5 times with Azir. So that's a giga-long unlock. A huge AoE late game, probably one of the best late games in the game. Archangels, I bet, will go nuts as well. He probably just kills everything with that. We've had a Xerath like this before, and I believe that worked really, really well on him. He actually built like Rage Blade because it was based on his attack speed on how quickly he would launch the things. But maybe this one's just flat. Next up we have is Ziggs, Zon, Yordle, and Longshot, Mega Inferno Bomb. Passive is attacks are replaced with a bomb that bounces 1 time, dealing magic damage to units hit. And then the active is throwing a giant bomb and explodes, dealing damage based on their distance from the epicenter. So unlock this by fielding Yordle or Zonite with 3 items and be level 9. This is just those giant AoE champions in the late game, but also has like the auto attack effect. So you might want to build like a Rage Blade on him, kind of like Twist of Fate from last set. Next up we have is Zillion, Chrono Keeper, and Invoker. Visions of the End. Throw a time bomb on the nearest enemy without one. Time bombs deal magic damage each second. When the target dies, they explode, dealing magic damage in a 1 hex radius, and grant Zillion 15 mana. If a time bomb is on an enemy for 18 seconds and Zillion is alive, the enemy instantly dies. So he's good at getting rid of Giga Tanks if they exist. But you kind of want him to hit the soft people too, because that way he gets the reset, gets more mana, throws a new one on. So I guess he is good if someone does have a super tank, but mostly he's still going to be dishing out a lot of value no matter who he hits. Now we're on to the 7 cost. You heard that right. Aurelian Soul, Starforger, Targan, and the Skies descend. After dealing ability damage to an enemy, gain Stardust. Stardust makes the Skies descend even more powerful. Active is going to be Crash a Star on target, dealing magic damage in a 2-hex radius. The earlier you play him, the better he's going to be for the crazy payoffs, because each upgrade you get something crazy, and with 1200 shards or whatever, you summon a black hole in the epicenter, instantly killing enemies from within. So that's like Exodia, right? But you unlock Aurelian Soul by having 5 Targans in combat. Baron Nashor is going to be a Void Rift Scourge. Wrath of the Void, passive is immune to crowd control effects. Attacks deal damage in a line on target. If no enemies are in range, dash to the next one and knock up adjacent enemies on arrival. While in the Void Rift, erupt a tentacle below a random enemy every few seconds that knocks him up. And then his active is going to be slamming with erect spikes in a 2-hex radius. And let me guess, knocking them up? Nope. Only physical damage to enemies hit, and then over 3 seconds, spit 10 globs of acid that deal physical damage. To unlock this, you need to be level 10 and have 7 Void. Very hard unlock condition, but absolutely goes crazy. He also takes up 2 slots, so it's very similar to the dragons. Next up, we have is Brock, who is an Ixtal Seismic Slam. Passive is immune to crowd control, and also an attacks briefly knock up the target and deal damage. And then the active is slamming the ground and dealing physical damage to all enemies, reduced by each hex it is from the center. And if this is the first time they've been hit by Seismic Slam this combat, knock them up for 1.75 seconds, and then rocks fall on the battlefield, each dealing physical damage to units hit. And to get this, you need to collect 500 Ixtal clues, which is a lot on the quest, so you have to be questing pretty much all game to get this. Next up we have is Silas. This one I think has the most interesting unlock. So to unlock Silas, you need to sell a 2-star Jarvan, a 2-star Garen, and a 2-star Lux. Remember, some of those are 4-cost units, so you need to commit pretty hard to this. But you're going to be Chainbreaker, Arcanist, and Defender with Stolen Might, cast 1 of 3 spells, Cataclysm, leap on a nearby enemy, dealing damage to all enemies within 2 hexes and stunning them. Demacian Justice, deal magic damage to target if they are below 15% max health, execute them. And lastly, Final Spark, deal magic damage to all enemies in a line. I guess that's stealing all the abilities of the champions that you have sold, right? I just realized that. But yeah, if you pivot out of Demacia, Silas goes crazy. And remember, he always casts the best ability based on the situation, but he doesn't cast the same ability 2 times in a row. Lastly, we have is Zaheen. Dark and Immortal, Divine Challenge, dash around targets and slash in a circle, dealing physical damage to the target and physical damage to all other adjacent enemies hit. If the target does not die immediately, recast again. If this ability is cast 25 times in a row, instead slam on the target, instantly killing them and dealing physical damage to all enemies within 3 hexes. To unlock this, you need to get the Xin Zhao Champion Augment and then field a 3-star Xin Zhao for 5 rounds. And then to get the Immortal bonus, you need to sell the Xin Zhao. So kind of weird stuff there, but yeah, good luck getting the Champion Augment. Let me know how it goes. But that's going to be it for the champions. Let's move on into the augments. I'm not going to go over every single one of them, but I will go over the highlights. For example, in silver tier, we have a couple of hero augments. We have Artillery Barrage. This one's gain a rumble. Your strongest rumble gains +7 range and constantly fires missiles at enemies with increased attack speed. This one is very similar to Jinx, except it activates right away. He just constantly shoots out bullets, and yeah, pretty fun to watch and pretty fun to use. There are a bunch of stackers like this one. Gain a BF sword. After your units deal 70,000 physical damage, gain 2 more. Same thing for rods and also for gloves with critting. There are a bunch of elemental hexes that bring back set 2 elements. If you can't tell, lore of legends, we're getting a lot of lore, and we already saw all the legends before, but kind of combining every set in TFT into one. I actually wonder what they're going to do for future sets. Next set's definitely like a break set. If you want to ever take like a 3-month trip to wherever, like, it's going to be the time to do that. But for set 16, we got buckled down. Set 17, we'll have to see, because I just don't know what else they can do. Giant Spelled, same thing as the stacking stuff. Fire Hex, Tier, same thing. So all the silvers, they kind of have the same theme going. Looks like they have one for every single item and every single type of hex. In gold tier, they have the opposite of the pumping up augments, where you upgrade your next augment, but this one actually downgrades your next augment, so you're praying that it's going to be a gold augment so that it gets downgraded to silver. Going from prismatic to gold will feel so bad, but if it's gold to silver, then this is going to be really, really good. They also added augments that are dedicated to winners of previous tournaments. So Arcane Victory, 10 seconds into combat, stun the enemy team for 1.5 seconds. Repeat this 28 seconds into combat. It's like one of the signatures of like the winners of various tournaments. By the way, you can find a full list of augments on the website bunnymuffins.lol/set16. They have various trait augments, so for Bandle Bounty, for every Yordle you've unlocked or unlocked, gain 6 gold. The Bandle Path reveals a secret Yordle 10. We'll have to figure out what that is. They added a special item augment for Bloodthirster. Combat start, allies holding Bloodthirster lose 20% health but gain 10% AD and 25% health shield. So they easily gain that health back, so that's all pluses there. Bringer of Ruin, every 2 attacks Otacon scores permanently grants him 3% attack speed and 15 max health. That's going to be good for Noxious. They have this very, very unique one, gain 21 gold, where you gain 21 gold. Infinity Protection, gain 8 gold now. On 3/7, gain an Infinity Force. Infinity Force gives allies in the same row 15% health shield. That one's from the Monsters Attack Championship. That one's kind of risky. You do get good econ from the extra gold, and then you get to Giga Spike on stage 4-1, but it does seem like you're going to lose a lot of health on the way there. We have Kahuna Huna, which is one of the power-ups in previous sets. That one's going to be an augment now. But another thing about augments is that they removed all the hearts, crests, and crowns. So the only way to get emblems is by building them the old-fashioned way. I recommend using the team builder on teamfight.lol when the set comes out in December 3rd or whenever, because it has like a nice little item guide to figure out which items build which emblem. This one's really fun. Poison Pals, gain a Singe and a 2-star Teemo. Every 4 seconds, Teemo fires a dart at Singe's target. When an enemy poisoned by Teemo dies, Singe gains AP for the rest of combat. That one sounds pretty toxic. There are a couple of other ones like this where they are quote-unquote like trait augments, where you get like a duo augment or like a team-up augment. But it seems like they added a bunch of item ones, such as like some we skipped over already, but they have Protector's Vow, they have Archangel Staff, Stone Plate, Rage Blade. All of these are getting added. Spirit Visage. We have Spreading Roots, gain 2 random emblems and 1 gold. I forgot to mention that is like the only way to get emblems, is like all the random ones. Because before, when you took like, I don't know, like Arcanist Crown or whatever, it's like you're going Arcanist, you're not really making any decisions, so they're getting rid of that. But they did say that the set still is going to be beginner friendly. I think it's due to the unlock effects, because when you are going deep into one trait, which is typically how beginners play because it's like the easiest way to play, you will be unlocking those champions and you're going to be uncontested on them, so it will be pretty easy to hit your team. So I think that's what they're banking on instead by removing the crowns and crests. This one's fun. Earth's Gambit. If you win your next combat, gain a spatula. If you lose, gain a frying pan. Gain a component anvil and 2 gold right now. So this one is part of the whole theme they have of like, oh, when you win, this happens. When you lose, this happens. I almost skipped this most important one. Choose one of 4 darkened weapons. Darkened weapons are artifacts that grant the darkened trait. But this is how you get those like darkened 1, 2, and 3 unlocked, because there are only 2 darkened champions in the game. But the darkened weapon turns someone into a darkened, and also it helps you get to the lifesteal threshold. So generally you want to run like a Slayer because they have innate lifesteal. So you build that, put the darkened weapon on them, build like a Bloodthirster or a Hand of Justice, and you should be able to unlock, I believe it is Aatrox. Onto the Prismatics. We have this really cool one, Sentinels of Light. Gain a Lucian and Senna and a 2-star Vayne. Vayne fires additional bolts at enemies afflicted by Black Mist, and on takedown grants attack speed to Lucian and Senna. They're bringing Binary Airdrop back. This is one of my favorite augments. You just get a free 3rd item, so it's really good if you have a lot of items, so you could 3-item everyone, or you could use it if you have a lot of flexible carries that don't need specific items. It's really good on those flex boards. Chosen Wolves. This is a team-up augment. Gain an Mbessa and a Kindred. When a Kindred casts, Mbessa always gains their protection against death and gains attack damage while protected. When Mbessa casts, Wolf strikes all enemies hit, reducing damage. Instead of Buried Treasures, we have this weird one. After 6 combats, gain 1 of each component. That's going to be Component Heist. This one's on 4-2 only. That one's really risky. Do you even want this on 4-2? You just go no prismatic for 6 rounds in a row. You lose, what, like 70 health in the... No, I don't want this one. No, thank you. They need to buff this in some way. I'm calling this now. You would only take it if you're already super duper 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 strong, but even then there probably are better things to take, because in the late game, like, combat augments are much better than item augments. Oh yeah, they also promised that there are going to be a lot fewer dead augments. I don't know how they define dead augment, but if you find yourself in a situation where you're like auto skipping augments or something like that, like, reported to the devs, they said they're going to try to get rid of those. So in case you didn't know, augments are like semi-tailored. On 2-1, I believe they're all random, but on 3-2 and 4-2, they are semi-tailored. So it's like fake luck or fake RNG. not pure RNG, so do keep that in mind. Construct a champion. The next one cost you buy is a 3-star, gain 5 gold. That's like Build-A-Bud on crack. But yeah, there's a lot of weird ones that they are adding. Some of them they're bringing back. Dragon Guards, gain a Shyvana and a 2-star Jarvan. When Jarvan casts, Shyvana gains a shield. When Shyvana breathes fire, Jarvan jumps in and deals damage based on his armor and MR. After every player combat, gain a Jarvan, so you could get like a 3-star Jarvan or a 4-star Jarvan possibly, but this one's on 4-2 only. Indecision, after 4 rounds, open a new augment armory of the same tier to replace this augment, gain 18 gold now. Growth mindset, you know. That's me with my YouTube channel, gain 40 XP. Buying XP costs 3 gold instead of 4. I guess I could run a sale on my Patreon, 3 gold instead of 4 gold. I don't know, we'll see about that. I think it's 5, so maybe I'll do 5 to 4 at the start of set sale. Just hit, gain a champion duplicator, 18 shop rerolls, and 10 gold. Min max, that's a very popular TFT term. Gain a golden item remover and 4 random item components. Wait, that's going to be really tough to do. Holy cow. 3-2. Okay, yeah, 3-2 is doable. On stage 4-2, I'm not too sure, but on 3-2, yeah, that's like the perfect time to get something like this. Two completed items, though, from a prismatic doesn't seem that strong, though. So you have to get a lot of good value from this golden item remover. In order to maximize this, or min-max, is to get those, like, weird positional items or, like, cycling thieves' gloves off of people. Like, that's the only way to actually get max value from this. So apart from that, like, in terms of generic strength, seems pretty weak, but kind of fun to play around with. Money Monsoon, gain 7 gold now and every round for the rest of the game. Retribution, gain 2 Handed Justices. Allies equipped with Handed Justice can critically strike with their abilities. Holy cow, that one's really, really good. Oh my god. Like, that might be a broken one. That's huge, right? Like, am I crazy in thinking that? If you get out on 3-2, for sure it's OP. 4-2, I don't know, but that's gotta be like a super bonus, right? Those are 2 effects and items that perfectly complement each other. Sweet Treats, gain an artifact anvil. Your team gains 30 health for each item equipped on each champion. The Axiomata, pick 3 random elemental hexes. Future augment rounds instead grant you 1 random elemental hex and gold based on the augment's tier. Oh, that one's really fun. It replaces all your augment rounds, and then you're just all in on hexes. Okay. Trait tree, gain 3 random emblems and 3 gold. Man, these are going to drive people crazy. Are they getting rid of Wandering Trainer? I hope they are, because that was completely awful. Well, no, it was like a pretty good augment, but like the encounter is awful. I hope they get rid of it. I don't know what they did with encounters. They changed them up a little bit, but nothing too crazy, I believe, because obviously the craziness comes from everything being in the game. The World Runes, gain 2 emblems from 2 random regions. Each player combat with 4+ region traits active grant a World Rune. After collecting all 9 runes, gain a Radiant Refactor and 2 Oh my god, that one's a huge... When do you even want to go for this? This seems so hard to get, but if you get it, I mean, you get absolutely insane items, right? We stick together. Gain a random emblem and a completed item anvil. Allies that share a trait with that emblem gain 20% attack speed into the Arcane Tactician's Crown. 2025. Okay, I didn't know that they used that to the great effect during that time. But last one is going to be Win Out. When you reach level 9, immediately level to 10 and gain 10 free shop rerolls. Gain 10 XP now. What? Is that even good? Okay, so like getting to level 10 was like cost was I think like 70 gold or something like that, 72 or 84 or something like that. They are redoing the leveling numbers. Level 8 is now 60 gold and level 9 and 10 are adjusted to compensate for that. But I forgot the exact numbers on this, but you get this on 3-2, you gain 10 XP and then somehow you have to make it to level 9. And then you have to have some gold to buy the champions from the free shop rerolls at level 10. But you probably could get something absolutely crazy with that. Maybe get an Azir early or something like that. Start stacking Shurima. But those are going to be the augments that I think are most interesting. Obviously, they're going to be changing them, removing and adding random ones as the PvE set goes on, or as like the entire set goes on in general. But yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know about set 16. There are a couple of other weird things, but everything will be updated on the website teamfight.lol in the near future. PBE is out around November 18th, and I think the set comes out December 3rd. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions on this new set. I'm pretty excited. Again, I think this is like, I know I tricked you guys in the last set. I thought last set was the good set because they have good sets and bad sets. I don't care if they deny this. It's just something I believe. But set 14 was for sure a throwaway set. So I thought set 15 was going to be like the Giga set. But I think the Giga set was set 16 because they have 100 champions in here and they're bringing everything back from history. So this one's got to be the Giga set. Set 15, they just redid anomalies but did it better, but it ended up being worse somehow, even though I think the power-up mechanic is better than anomalies in a vacuum. So this one has to be the set. The set after this, that one's a throwaway set. You heard it here first. Feel free to quote me on that, but if you wanted to play TFT, now is the time. bunnymuffins.lol/meta for tier list once the set comes out. And yeah, get on over to the Discord if you want to discuss this set with other people. And apart from that, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. I won't keep you too much longer because this was already an extremely long video. So I will see you all in the next one.